Did you go shopping on Black Friday? Check out any of the online shops? See any great deals? Buy that new fancy TV that you've been eyeing all year? Well, there's a particular set of deals that I saw that really caught my eye, that blew me out of the water. But as Black Friday died down, it became clear that the pricing I was seeing on AMD's Ryzen lineup wasn't a specialized one-day price, but apparently a promotion that's running until December 2nd. So Woodward contacted me and asked me to make a video going over these deals and outlining why you should be buying Ryzen right now, especially over the blue team competition of Coffee Lake. When Coffee Lake launched just over a month and a half ago, I was pretty clear that the chips made no sense from a value perspective, especially considering they increased their pricing over the Kaby Lake predecessors. But now, with this tremendous price cut on Ryzen CPUs, their value becomes even more ludicrous, which, let me walk you through the deals in order to give you a broader picture of what I'm talking about. Which, by the way, if you want to support us here at the UF Disciple channel, you can use our Amazon affiliate code down in the video description to pick up any and all of these Ryzen deals or whatever else you may be buying for Cyber Monday or for the holidays. It won't cost you a cent to use the link, but it gives us a small kickback that helps us out a lot. So up first, let's take Intel's i3-8350K, a quad-core, no extra thread count, Kaby Lake i5 replacement that will cost you $189.99. So $190 is the price to beat here, so let's shimmy on over to Team Red and see what our options are. Right now, if you're just looking to get a cheap quad-core overclockable processor, you can pick up either the Ryzen 3 1200 or even the 1300X for just $100. $90 cheaper than the 8350K, making the Ryzen 3s a great buy. But Breed! I can hear you screeching. You can't look at the 8350K as that's not the budget i3 on the market right now. You need to talk about the i3 8100. Okay, internet folk. Here's why I didn't start off with the 8100 and will not be focusing on the non-overclockable Coffee Lake chips for the remainder of this video. I am talking about your best buy right now. If you buy an i3 8100, what motherboard selection do you have? Z370. That's right. Intel, for some flabbergasted reason, still hasn't released their budget non-overclocking boards, even though they launched 3 SKUs of non-OC chips. The i3-8100, i5-8600, and i7-8700 are all tremendously ridiculous buys right now, in my opinion, because you can't get proper motherboard support for them. So your options are buying something that's too high-end for your needs, or buying a CPU with no motherboard support until the budget end launches because Intel couldn't allow Z270 to support their latest CPU releases, even though they only came out 10 months after Kaby Lake's initial launch. For as good as the Coffee Lake chips might be, and I'm not denying that they have their place in the market, Intel clearly had no mind for the budget-oriented consumer with this launch, and because of that, we can only look at the K-series Coffee Lake CPUs for the rest of our comparison because they're the only ones with proper motherboard support a month and a half after launch. So back to the 8350K comparison. If you decide to pick up the similar core count Ryzen 3 1300X, that means that you have plenty of money left to spend on a decent B350 motherboard, which, again, to AMD's credit, thankfully the B350 and X370 both support overclocking. You mainly lose out on Crossfire and SLI support by going B350, but that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. But what if you don't care about that extra budget and you have that amount of money allocated for a CPU only? Well then, my friends, for that same $190 for the i3-8350K, you can upgrade to the Ryzen 5 1600 CPU, which has just as many cores and threads as Coffee Lake's flagship i7. 6 cores, 12 threads, and a pretty competent CPU cooler, mind you, for the exact same pricing as Intel's 4-core chip. That's 300% more threads for the same price. If you're at all a normal person who actually likes to have programs running in the background and do things like surf the internet, watch movies, or even stream while you're playing your video games, then picking up the 1600 is a phenomenal bargain right now. Sure, it may not be able to have the same single-core performance as the 8350K, but the extra flexibility of the 12 threads means that you're able to do so much more than play video games, like a real person would. But again, if you're just looking for budget, you can get the 1300X for just about half the price. Taking a look at Wootware's pricing here in South Africa, the pricing isn't as skewed in AMD's favor, but we see the same general trend. For 1,900 Rand and 2,100 Rand, you can get the Ryzen 3 1200 and 1300X respectively, with the 8350K coming in at 3,000 Rand. For the Ryzen 5 1600, you would have to pay 200 Rand more for a total of 3,200 Rand, but that's still the same point of being an insanely good value. For only 7% more cost than the i3, you get 300% more threads, and then you can also save on the motherboard by picking up a quality B350 over having to skimp on a budget Z370. So then let's move on to Intel's i5 CPU, the 8600K. If you want this hex core, no extra thread chip, it'll set you back a whopping $300. Now, unlike with the i3, AMD has no direct equivalent to the 8600K because any of their 6-core CPUs have simultaneous multi-threading, so if you buy a hex-core proc from AMD, you're also getting 12 threads. Now, with the 8350K's pricing, we already reached the Ryzen 5 1600. In my 8600K review, I showed that the Ryzen 5 1600 stayed well within the range of decent performance against the Coffee Lake SKU, even with the 1080 Ti 1080p. But for the same price as the 8600K, you can get a 1600 with a decent X370 motherboard like this Asus Prime X370 Pro after rebate, and save all your motherboard cash for splurging on that high-speed DDR4 RAM you'll need, especially since the price of RAM has basically gone hyperinflationary since the start of the year. But let's take a look at, again, if you want to spend the same amount on your CPU. Well, for that $300, you can get the Ryzen 5 1600X, Ryzen 7 1700, or Ryzen 7 1700X for all less than the 8600K. AMD has no CPU at the $300 mark, so no matter what, you're saving money. Now, the only deal that was happening on Friday that appears to be completely gone, probably due to the insane demand, is the Ryzen 7 1800X pricing of $320. It's now going for $350, but that means you can get AMD's flagship mainstream processor for only $50 more than Intel's middle tier processor. There are 3 8-core 16-thread CPUs in the same pricing ballpark as Intel's 6-core offerings. That's bananas. In South Africa, it's again close, but the pricing competition is a bit tighter. The i5 8600K will cost you 4,300 Rand, but you can get the Ryzen 7 1700X for 4,400 Rand, just 100 Rand more. Or you can pick up the flagship 1800X for 5,000 Rand. 700 Rand more, which is the equivalent of the US increase of $50 extra. Same great value here in South Africa, and just as easy to recommend AMD over at Intel for your best bang for the buck right now. Which, my point here would be that if you know you need 6 cores for whatever it is that you're doing productivity-wise, gaming or otherwise, why wouldn't 10 more threads help you out, or at least give you a little bit more wiggle room? For the past few weeks, I had by necessity been streaming on an i5 8600K system, as that was the only PC that had Forza installed on it, and since it's a 95GB download, getting it on another PC was a long cap-busting endeavor. But even with all 6 cores pegged at 4.8 GHz, I was still maxing out the CPU playing Forza at 1080p and trying to stream at the same time. I've since corrected this because it was too big of an issue to let it continue, where my drifting looked like a slideshow to everyone on stream because I was maxing out the Intel CPU to 100% utilization. Even having the Ryzen 5 1600, let alone the Ryzen 7 1800X, in that scenario would have saved you guys from the PowerPoint rendition of drift sliding. Sorry about that. Alright, do you all understand where we are right now with this comparison? I've run out of Ryzen CPUs to compare to Intel's Coffee Lake, and we haven't even touched the i7 8700K. 6 cores, 12 threads, directly comparable to Ryzen 5's 1600 and 1600X, but costing over $200 more. I don't know what benchmarks you may have looked at, but no matter what, Intel's i7 doesn't give you double the performance of AMD's Ryzen 5s, even if it's priced that way. And even if you pick up Ryzen 7 1800X, you again have those extra cores and threads, and then some cash in your pocket to help out with RAM pricing that's cripplingly high right now. Ryzen 3, 5, and 7 provide just fantastic value right now that it's nearly impossible to find a reason to recommend buying Intel's Coffee Lake for your holiday upgrade, unless of course you know you need clock speeds in excess of 4 GHz. If you can get by with anything between 3.5 and 4 GHz, then Ryzen is a serious no-brainer. It's not that Coffee Lake doesn't have its place, but Intel is really cornered here by these latest Ryzen price drops. AMD was already the better value buy before these cuts, and now it's just even more so. And I haven't even mentioned the high-end desktop Threadripper versus Intel X series. $35 more than the 8700K and $50 less than the 7820X, the Threadripper 1900X comes in at a great buy if you need the extra PCI Express lanes and quad channel memory support of the high-end desktop range. And it's not even a fair comparison of the 7820X versus the 1900X as the top tier CPU, as every single Threadripper chip comes with 64 PCI Express lanes compared to the sad small 28 lanes on the Intel's equivalent. The value on Threadripper is so insanely good right now that I can't even do direct pricing comparison to Intel because all of AMD's chips come in below what the Intel is offering their 10-core 7900X for. You want a 12-core 24-thread beast? The 1920X is priced at $650 versus the i9-7920X pricing of $1,200. You want the flagship 16-core 32-thread 1950X? only going to cost you $800, less than Intel's 10-core, and then $900 less than Intel's 16-core equivalent, the 7960X. For $900, you can pick up 64 gigabytes of Trident Z RGB RAM like I have in my Threadripper 1950X system, or you can get the highest-end X399 Zenith Extreme and still have enough money left over for 32 gigabytes of RAM. You get a 16-core AMD CPU and a butt-ton of RAM for the same price as one Intel X series. For a content creator like me, it's a game changer. Having an affordable mega-core CPU makes all the difference in my workflow, meaning I get my videos out hours earlier than I did with my mainstream CPUs, but then I'm also not spending over $5,000 to get this type of performance. In South Africa, once again, pricing is a little bit tighter, but again, still heavily in AMD's value favor. For 9,000 Rand, you can get the 8-core 64 PCI Express Lane 1900X versus 10,000 Rand for the 7820X. But the super value comes in for the 1920X. For 11,000 Rand, you can get the 12-core proc compared to spending over 20,000 Rand for the 7920X. The 1950X, again, is of similar proportions. The 16-core Threadripper will set you back 15,500 Rand, but the 7960X will run you over 28,000 Rand. A 13,000 Rand price difference, which is again super similar to the $900 cost savings that you see in the US. Now, I just want to take a moment to address anyone who may be saying that Ryzen isn't as good a buy for gaming because most games don't support more than 4 cores. To that, I would say that you're entirely correct, that a lot of games don't benefit from more than 4 cores, but at the same time, Intel all but confirmed that the future is a multi-core enhanced gaming industry when they released Coffee Lake and showed that AMD was heading in the right direction with the Ryzen launch. When both major CPU manufacturers are starting to pump out mainstream hex and octa-cores, the games industry will also follow suit to optimize for that hardware. It happened with dual cores and then quad cores. Ryzen just happened to be ahead of the curve by launching in March. But that means if you buy Ryzen now, you'll likely have the extra core space that will inevitably be necessary in AAA games coming out in 2018 and later. But whether you're picking up Ryzen, a new motherboard, or you saved up for the current RAM pricing, Wootware should be your go-to e-tailer if you're in South Africa. With all of the amazing Ryzen deals mentioned in this video, as well as a fantastic selection on a whole host of other products, Wootware is an easy one-stop shop for your holiday rig upgrade. So if you're in South Africa, head on over to wootware.co.za to woot up your PC. Their link will be in the video description. What do you all think of this latest Ryzen pricing? Did you pick up any of the AMD chips on Black Friday? Well, you plan to now that you know how their pricing stacks up against Intel. Which one is your favorite buy? Let me know either down in the comments or over on Twitter. I am at UFDisciple. My favorite buys would be the Ryzen 3 1300X for $100, the Ryzen 5 1600 for $190, and then the Ryzen 7 1700X for $280. Those would be the chips I would pick up if I didn't already have my precious Threadripper. Be sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed this quick value comparison of Ryzen versus Intel. Subscribe to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. Also, again, if you're not in South Africa and looking to do some holiday tech shopping, you can use our Amazon affiliate code in the description and it'll help our channel out a lot. Anyways, I'm Brett with the UFDisciple channel. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.